So here we are with Jamie Allen from TypeSafe. Hello, Jamie.
Hello.
He's here in Madrid because he had come to talk about Scala and the GVM. And I was thinking about some questions to do to him, and I thought about this one. Has Scala influenced on the latest version of Java 8? And in case it has, what changes do you think that prove the most this influence?
I do think that Java 8 was greatly influenced by Scala. I think one of the great things about the progress Scala has made in the community is that it's really shown that these features are wanted and desired by the programming community. And I think that the stewards of Java saw this and said, okay, maybe it's time for us to introduce them into Java as well. But there were other factors as well. Scala was designed with specific constructs that would make it very friendly to being concurrent, to concurrent processing. And with the advent of increased numbers of cores on every processor, Java wants to move in the same direction as well, because the application of a function to a container of data is a much simpler way to deal with concurrency than an imperative style of writing code the way it was being done before through like for each and stuff like that. So I think in a lot of ways, yeah, the Scala language has been an R&D lab for, Oracle and Sun being able to put new features in the language and be confident that the users will be able to adopt them.
We're talking about these changes that Java 8 brings. Mm-hmm. Do you think these changes are positive or negative for this Scala adoption?
I think it's both. I think that there's the possibility that there are going to be Scala users who say, you know what, I get enough of what I need just by using Java 8, and I don't want to have multiple extra languages in my, in my ecosystem. And we actually see this with LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn has a large amount of Scala code. You can see this from the projects they've open sourced, like Kafka. But at the same time, they've decided that with Java 8, there are features in there that they want that are enough, and that's going to work for them, and they won't write new Scala, they say. Well, I think they're going to run into a couple of challenges with that, but TypeSafe doesn't have a problem with it because they're still using Play Framework, and it's great, actually, to know that you can switch between using Scala and using Java and not have to leave the TypeSafe ecosystem, right? That's actually a validation for us. But I also think they're going to have a difficult time with Scala developers who are going to say, I'm not going to code Java, you can't make me. So I think it'll be interesting to watch.
When talking about this competition between Scala programmers and Java users, you talked today about this akka, and you said that more than 50% of this akka users are people from Java, which seemed really shocking for me. So I came to this question: what do you think that akka needs to implement, just in case it needs to implement something? What do you think it needs to implement in order to get more people from Java?
I don't necessarily know that the implementation matters. I think that the moves that we're making with typed akka, which will allow for compile time checking that a message can be handled by an akka, is a big step forward. But I think there are larger concerns for the community, and that would be things like, can I monitor this effectively? Can I do distributed and logging, and then bring it down to a single view of what's happening across my entire system? Can I, what's another example? Can I deploy this? How do I deploy this? Because it's not running inside of a JEE container or Tomcat or Jetty. Now you have a different deployment approach, and that can be a little bit disconcerting to companies who are used to that traditional approach. So I think we're finding ways to deal with this. TypeSafe is actively building another monitoring approach. The first time we did it, it didn't work out so well because we're not a monitoring company. And while we could get the data out of akka, it began to overwhelm the user interface, and it's just not something we do particularly well. So then we tried another way, and we found that load time weaving affected the performance of akka so much that it just really wasn't worth doing. This third way is going to go back to the original approach that we use, but now we're just going to expose a service provider interface, an SPI, that allows you to tap in and get the data yourself, or bolt on a monitoring tool from a third party. And we think that's the best of both worlds. So we're learning as we go, but I think we're also breaking down the walls toward, adoption for people who aren't used to this approach.
I have a last question for you, Jamie, today. You talk about today this Spark on Mesos, and it seemed really important. Hearing you talking about this, could you please develop us? What were you talking about? What was your opinion about this?
Sure. So the way most people are using a tool like Spark for handling lots of data as quickly as possible in memory and getting answers interactively, whereas the traditional tools like Hadoop, it's just batch jobs running on a separate cluster. Mesos is breaking down these walls. So a tool was released about a month or two ago called Myriad, which allows you to use Yarn and Mesos in concert with each other, so that you don't have to have a separate cluster for your Hadoop world and a separate, cluster for your application world. This is extremely exciting because now, you can leverage both pools of resources efficiently instead of having one sitting around doing nothing when they could be helping you out with the other side. So this is a big deal. But Mesos in particular, this is a tool which allows you to say, deploy all of this stuff across all of my infrastructure. And you might want to do that for some things and not others. I don't know how well deploying Oracle would work with a tool like this, but deploying Cassandra, deploying your JVM-based applications, deploying your non-JVM-based applications can all be done through Mesos. And that's a very powerful facility. And obviously with Spark, you want to leverage as many resources as you can in a dynamic fashion, because the amount of data you're dealing with can change by the amount coming in.
Yeah.
So, this is a very powerful construct.
Well, many thanks for having passed here, for sharing this information with us and these concepts you've come here to talk about. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you.